Hey, what's up, man?
All good. I I definitely said intro, and here we go.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
Cool, cool.
I'm doing a bit.
Okay. Um, you know who else is doing a bit?
Hmm.
Valve. They're doing a huge bit.
Are they?
They're doing a
What
bit.
what bit are they doing?
They're doing a bit
Are
where
they?
they're doing a bit where they're pretending that they'll be able to output the hardware uh amount that they would like with this, but with the Steam Deck. But I'd be pleasantly surprised if this went differently from the controller and the Steam machines of past.
I think the bit they're doing is they're pretending that they're gonna support their hardware at all.
You know what the real bit is? The
What's the
the
wait? What? Yeah, what? Yeah,
the real bit is that Valve is releasing the Switch Pro.
yeah. Like, it's such a weird thing because it like on surface on paper, it's like oh yeah, that's a cool little bit. That's a cool little device, right? But like everything about it makes me feel bad. So the base version costs $50 more than the Switch OLED. So I'm like, oh holy shit, you could have totally put tons of juice in that new Switch and still had some kind of margin, and Nintendo just was like, nah. And then I'm like, oh cool, Steam Deck seems cool, except the part where I've held a Steam controller.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Yeah.
held one in my hand.
So this is the overall feeling I had as I was reading about the announcement of the Steam Deck was okay, yeah, uh-huh. And then like getting to the end of the breakdowns and such and kind of going like, okay, no 1080p, it's going to be 720. Okay. We're looking at a 64 gig internal on the cheapest model, which is ridiculous considering the size of most modern PC games and that are
That thing
AAA.
is a fucking joke.
So like you kind of hit that part and you're like, yeah, this is ridiculous. One Call of Duty game laughs at your
No,
entire internal
no,
storage.
no. Call of Duty games are like hundreds of
That's
gigs.
what I said. It laughs at your entire internal
Yeah,
storage.
but like, I mean, shit, there's plenty of games on my Steam list that I would ostensibly want to play on that
Yeah.
you can't. A Witcher can't fit on there.
But that makes the low end model like size a joke unless you go and you get the expanded an SD card, which is which you can get up to a terabyte now, which it feels like you pretty much would have to do if you're going to be playing like the
But if you're
bulkier
gonna get
games. If you're
yeah,
if you're
okay.
playing a bunch of indie games and small things that are light and breezy, then you'll be fine.
Hmm.
But that one
Then you
terabyte
can get
expansion probably a
then
must.
you can get the next one, which is 256, and it comes with faster storage and a carrying case for 160. Sorry, $150 more.
Mm-hmm. And then
And then
there's
you
the
can get a
512.
512,
Mm-hmm.
which has anti-glare glass.
So I have to. So to be perfectly honest, like all of that is like, oh yeah, this is the Switch Pro that's actually being announced. And at the same
Hmm.
time, there's these issues, but a bunch of that shit, like to me personally, means nothing. When I saw this, the number one thing that I was like, even if this is all airtight, the number one thing is the name Valve and hardware, and the fact that I'm like, yeah, I don't, on a hardware side of things, I don't trust them to be able to do this. I just,
So there,
that's a very nervous name to put on your hardware.
I find it. I have like 4 or 5 different things that just leap out at me as troubling. Right? Number one is I've held a Steam controller,
Hmm.
and these are being sold before people can touch them.
The index was good. Okay, all right, fair enough.
Yeah,
I completely
sure,
did not
fine.
touch the index.
The index is also like $1,200. Um, Speaking of, hey Wooly, would you like to inform our non-Canadian audiences how much the fanciest of the Steam Decks costs in Canadian
Oh
dollars?
god, I didn't even do the translation.
It costs
Well,
$933.
there you go. Yeah. So, I'm
So,
thinking, right, when I look at this, I don't care about my Switch undocked at all. So the screen, the resolution, the fucking the battery, the fucking store, like all of that
yeah,
does
yeah,
not
yeah.
mean shit to me because my shit stays firmly planted in its dock, and that's pretty much how I would use something like this if I were to get one.
Mm-hmm.
What immediately stood out, the first like scrolling through it, was just like, this might be the answer to the Strive tournament
Yeah,
problem.
no, absolutely. That in this hyper specific use case,
It's
it
crazy.
is.
And the timing of that was not something that was only apparent to me, because not only were every other TO talking about the exact same idea, but
Mhm.
the the promo screenshots for the Steam Deck literally have one where they're playing Strive
Yeah.
docked with one stick plugged in and a hitbox plugged in. So they're like, oh, it's almost as if someone is listening to the Twitter conversation going on right now about what
Mhm.
to do about the Guilty Gear Strive PC tournaments, you know?
And by almost as if it actually means they listened to no one while making this.
But it's that screenshot made everyone tilt their head sideways and go,
Yeah,
huh,
I'm sure the choice of the screenshot was actually in response to that.
you know.
But um,
So some
something.
early tests are showing that I think they're looking at 1.5 frames of input delay off
Uh-huh.
of a docked standard Steam Deck. So that's still a significant decrease from PS4 and
The console.
PS5.
Hmm.
So that is still pretty good. The so that sounds feasible. What they would have to do is find a way to secure it like they do with Switches, so that like no one can just grab one and run away in the middle of a tournament.
Hmm.
Like tether it or whatever, wire it into the table, and then two, you'd want to have. I think Arturo was saying it would need a USB hub to power people's converters as well, in case people come with sticks that are like ridiculous,
It
or
would. It
you
would.
know you can't just use the default USB-C dock port for that. But otherwise, and then the third thing, of course, is the TOs would have to get their hands on enough of them to make
Yeah,
this work.
that's not going to happen.
I can't imagine how. I can't possibly imagine how.
That's just not going to happen.
Unless some ridiculous sponsorship occurs, I don't see how all these majors are going to be like, yeah, we'll take 50, please. And then somehow I'll actually get those 50.
Yeah.
So
Um
it's a
there
potential
there
solution, but there's a bunch of asterisks.
so it's not. Yeah. It's also got like I think the longest term problem is that its place in the console or handheld market or whatever is kind of unique and has problems that pretty much only it will be facing. So, it's a little baby computer instead of a handheld or a console. It is basically just going to be running Steam games through Steam OS or whatever
Hopefully not
on
big
your little
picture.
baby computer, right? And you can plug it into your TV.
It's going to be big picture.
Um, yeah, probably some variation of it, maybe some custom thing. The difference is it's you're gonna run into the same problem that you run into with a gaming laptop, which is 2-3 years from now. Hey, all new games run like shit. Can I upgrade it? No. Oh, cool. You bought a $933 handheld that will become outdated because
Yeah.
people aren't building games for it.
Yeah.
You can just play existing games on it.
No, I think this is a purchase that, like, needs to be made fully aware that exactly this is not a console, this is a set PC in the middle of an ever growing market, and that you are committing to a time and place in this market, and that you're not going to be able to upgrade that. You know, you have to absolutely purchase it with that in mind.
Like they're selling people $1,000 box so that they can play indie games on it.
Now, that might be what some people want, and that might be what some people need for their particular purposes. If you are looking to not play every AAA and and basically play a bunch of indies and, you know, let's be real, probably some emulators and some shit like that, you know.
Yeah, you should get a Switch.
Then, well, unless those games are not, or unless those games are not playable on it, or whatever. I don't know. There are some people that like probably can be fine with the games they play. I know personally, I don't play a bunch of major AAAs on my PC. Period. So my game selection would probably be fine with the hardware and the storage over time. But overall, again, it's also people that want to play these things on the go. You know, I wouldn't give a fuck about that at all. I would absolutely treat it as a docked, just mini set piece of hardware, if anything.
I like that part is, you would be like the dumbest person in the world if you bought one. Because then the argument goes, well, why don't you just put like $900 into your existing personal computer?
Exactly.
Right? Or 2 consoles. Or, you know, or, right? So it has to be for people on the go. And
doesn't even have bells and whistles and lights and lasers or my logo on it.
I watched the Vita die a horrible death. And my takeaway from that is that the average person doesn't want to play a big-ass AAA prestige mega video game on the bus because they only have 10, 15, 20 minutes. And most of the time, when I carried my 3DS or whatever on me, I just ended up checking shit on my phone anyway.
Now, the idea of upgrading your PC over time, admittedly, though, is one that that's the best part of like going the PC route with things.
Yeah.
And when you buy one of these, like, you would be buying it also aware of like the life cycle of a console, because this would last the life cycle of a console. You know,
Maybe.
That's the thing, is like, even though you're not upgrading it, it's going to give you the couple years that any other handheld or, you know, Sony or Nintendo device would, and then eventually it'll just start to run games that are on Steam more and more badly.
I see a comment that I need to respond to because they're right. They describe that North Americans aren't so big on that handheld shit, but Japan loves handhelds. To which I say, that's right. There will be mass adoption of a PC Steam-based handheld made by an American company in the country that has talent agencies that deletes people's images out of internet photos. That's gonna do gangbusters.
Yeah, I do imagine that this doing decently would then want to keep Valve in this space, but I just again question, like, so the index was good. Was the index available? Was it readily? Were there enough shipped? Were people able to get their hands on them?
Still not readily available.
Like, this is my question about like Valve putting their toes in the hardware market, is like, even when if the index went well, it's like, can people buy them? You know?
No.
So yeah, it's that
Paige wanted an index. She's never been even able to attempt purchasing one.
Because the Steam controller, like, as terrible as it was, the thing that saved most people was that they couldn't even get one to find out how bad it was.
People don't even know.
Because it was very, very scarce.
They'll never know. I bought one so that you didn't have to. And then turns out no, most of you couldn't anyway.
So that scarcity issue is always been a thing with them, you know. But we'll see. Um, I certainly do hope that I want to see some tests run where it's like off of the expansion storage. I want to see if like running things off of the SD card creates any, performance issues, or if it's noticeable or negligible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I pretty much am squarely interested in this device as a potential tournament solution, and that's it.
Yeah. People are pointing out that you can install a Windows partition on it and just run anything that you could run on Windows, which I think that's pretty
Really?
clear. Yeah,
Huh. Okay, so
but
it's not locking you into big picture as a
yeah, you can. It's the same. I mean, it's a personal computer thing, so you can
okay.
install a partition on it, but
It's a PC.
that
Yeah.
means
Okay.
that you
Cool.
have to share your 64 gigs between your 2 games and your Windows partition.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. 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 That's good. That's good. Yeah. Get some terabyte SD cards, man. Just
It will probably live on as like a super emulator.
Mm-hmm. I remember what was
Like
the one called? Was it the FC32 or GP32X? The GP32X was a handheld emulation box essentially that existed for a while, and that did what it said it did. It was just people just put
mhm.
games on that thing and it ran them, and this might be a crisper, larger screen version of that. Although the button placement is seems pretty fucking high. Seems
Button
high and
placement
wide.
seems bad.
Because in order to get
All
the thumb touchpads in there, the gyro stations, they had to put the buttons way up in the corners. So
Also, have
I
you
don't know.
seen the size of this thing in comparison to other things?
A
It's
bit.
like holding 4 Vitas.
I saw that it's heavier. I saw the weight was much heavier. I didn't see the size
It's
comparison.
it's like a heavier Wii U gamepad.
Boy,
That
yeah.
seems ridiculous.
One thing I'm curious about is you saw the feature where it's like rest your thumbs on the touchpad and then it turns into gyro.
Yeah.
Is that going to be a conversion of mouse input, or will that be an additional thing that the game needs to specifically support? You
Well,
know?
if it specifically needs to support it, it won't be.
Yeah, so
We've learned
that's
that from the Steam
if it
controller
just replaces
kit.
mouse, then you're fine.
Who knows?
Mm-hmm.